Hey, we're live.
Hello.
We did it. Hello, we've made it once again. Thank you, fellow humans who have joined us. Peace and love to you.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. Welcome back. Good resonance. We have a special guest tonight. It's Idris. He is unable to go to sleep. So he's here as well, which is not really our preference, but that's what's going on. So tonight we had lots of good stuff to talk about. What do you want to start with, Amanda?
I don't know. Why don't you share, I guess, some of what came up for you? We were talking about recurring themes, recurring shadow work that you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some very, very challenging shadow work come up. Specifically around failure, around perceptions of others. And what I was talking to Amanda about today was the fine line between continuing to work like in your life, like do the work you have to do, as in like run your household, pay your bills, all that stuff, while honoring this wounded part of yourself. You know, actually being able to do both somehow, right? Because as parents, you know, we can't always stop and perform a ceremony to purge our shadows. Like, it's really not realistic. There's only so much self-care you have time for.
Yeah.
So what I was talking to Amanda about today was this balance between just continuing the daily work, but still holding a space for that wounded sort of aspect of myself that's come up, versus using my busyness to ignore it, push past it, and just keep going, so that next time this cycle comes around, I've got way more work to do. You know, I got more to clear.
It's just been pushed down.
Oh, goodness. Welcome to the show, Idris. Love hugs. I love jump attacks, hug attacks. I don't know what he calls them. Anyways, so this was one of my challenges, and it was interesting because it was in the midst of me really in some creative work and developing today specifically developing some new kids content that we have on the horizon. Greetings from Thailand. Hello, Michael from Thailand. Good to have you back. Yes, welcome back. Glad to have you here. Yeah, so I have some kids content coming up, which I'll talk about a little later. But I was working through this and just noticing today that I was able to go deeper into these shadows that were coming up around failure. And really what came up was just old stuff. Like some sort of obscure moment when I was a child, like this one, where I was shamed for failure. And, you know, nothing against my parents or my family. This is really common stuff. But sometimes, based on our psychology as a child, that one moment of failing and being shamed for it, that can be trauma for us. Oh, yes. Hello, Susan. Susan Barnes. Glad to have you here. Hello. I was just talking about, you know, this challenge of uncovering shadow work. And so today I went deeper than I've gone with this particular shadow, this shadow of being afraid of failure, of imagining the worst of certain scenarios. So I went deeper and found just, an old wounded child aspect from having been shamed for a failure very early on in life. And it was good. You know, it's good to meet that little guy, that little fractal of the shadow that I've worked on so many times. And, you know, I shared a meme that I think you sent me in my stories today with those drawers. I thought this was great. If you're on my Instagram, you know, this idea of shadow work as, you know, you open one drawer and then the drawer has a drawer and that drawer has a drawer and that drawer has a drawer. That's really nails the sort of fractal nature of shadow work. That there is also this, there's always this deeper layer. We just keep going. We travel inwards. So, you know, that's been my experience. And I'm sure this is a collective thing to a certain extent. How could anyone not? Are you saying hello to the people, Idris?
Yeah.
That's nice. Anyways, what do you got in that realm, Amanda? You had a beautiful post about breastfeeding and the cycle that you're coming through today. I mean, you know, where are you at?
Where are you at? It's been on my mind. Yeah, there's been a lot of, I mean, I feel like there's always a lot of shadow work to do. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's
Am
not
I
always on the
always doing
surface.
shadow
It's not
work?
always on the surface. It's not always
No, it's
confronting
true.
your daily life, you know?
No, it's true. And I was saying to you earlier that for me, it feels like cyclical at this point. And I always know that it is cyclical, that these, our struggles or our wounds.
Does it ever get heavy and it's not a big cycle? When things get really hard? Like, isn't it always some kind of cycle? Doesn't it kind of have to be?
Yes,
By the
but
structure
there
of our
are times
incarnations?
when my awareness of it isn't there. Like sometimes the heaviness is there without the awareness of the cycle, like coming full circle. That I might be somewhere else in the cycle. And so when you come sort of more full circle, I think there is like a wobbliness and I don't know, maybe doubt. Like that's what I've been feeling, I guess.
So you've been struggling with doubt about self, about life circumstances, about just all those things?
Yeah, self-doubt, definitely.
Hello, High Vibes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, glad to have you here. Yes, the dimensions of disclosure content. And you know what? I'm going to have a video of my presentation at Camp Disclosure last summer. That should be up in like a week or so. I've just had to retrace my steps in getting connected to the people that have that, because I was connected through Facebook with that team, and I'm not allowed on Facebook. I'm bad. So welcome, High Vibes. Happy to have you here. We're talking shadow cycles. Really, shadow cycles. That this idea that you finish a particular chapter of shadow work is really just not true. You don't. You come back to it.
True, but then, for at the same time, it's like, how do you go into that? Because for me, there is a sort of thing where I kind of like to hold things sometimes. So whether that be like
But to study
genetic things, yes, true, or to the feeling to hold, to be like, I'm holding this, like whether it's like family karma, old stuff, like
right.
So it's like, when is it the right time to release it? Because it's come back around so many times that it's unnecessary.
Right.
How many times? So I guess that's where I lean on like other practices to help me define whether this is something that's coming back as part of like a full cycle, or is this something that I'm just simply I need to let go. I need to let go.
That's
I need to let go of.
Yes.
Because it's no longer useful.
So its return is a revelation, not so much of the cycle, but of your holding on.
Yes. So it's, and that's when I lean on the oils a lot, because it helps me like exactly figure out, maybe this isn't just me meeting my shadow again and having to work through it and get nitty gritty. Maybe I just have to let it go.
How often do you think that's happening in sort of spiritual communities where people are like, I'm doing the shadow work, and it's just them literally holding on to stuff?
I don't know.
Wonder if that's common.
I don't know.
Could be.
It's tricky because
subtle work.
It's subtle work. It's subtle work, and only you can know.
Yeah.
So, but that's where I've been at with it, where I'm like, because I have this really strong internal desire to constantly fix things and make things better and improve them. So like the self-work and the internal like in analyzing and is great, but when is it just simply time that now, and whether it's like even family, whether it is because I learned this from my parents, or I carried this because my grandparents and great grandparents carried this as well. When can I just let that also go so I don't have to carry it anymore? Yeah. Or when is it that normal thing that you were saying you were having? When is it that normal cycle where you're like, oh, well, I'm meeting my shadow again because there were parts of it that were tucked away, and that's just the nature of things, you know?
Well, kids certainly highlight it. They certainly create a different sense of these longer cycles. I think the breastfeeding experience you're having is very interesting because
Yeah,
you've
it's
been
been
breastfeeding for 6 years straight.
yeah, pretty much. Like Asher kind of faded off when he was hospitalized, but pretty much
Are you showing them your cloth?
for why don't you back away from the light at least? Yeah, it's been an interesting cycle, and I don't know when Idris is going to decide to stop breastfeeding, or if I change my mind and I'm the one who's going to make that decision. But unlikely at this point. Like I'm so all in that I'm just waiting for him, and I'm taking his cues. So, but it is an interesting thing to think that it started with Asher and such an incredible struggle.
Yeah, let's give some context there. So
So
when Asher was born, he had a tongue tie, and it took us 3 months.
at least 3 months till I was like, okay, I see where we're going here.
Right. So it was 3
But
months
it was
of
probably 4 or 5 months till I was like
comfortable.
relaxed breastfeeding.
So it was 3 months of Amanda pumping all the milk, and then both of us taking turns feeding Asher with a tube sort of tied to our finger into his mouth,
For a few weeks, but then the bottle.
and then the bottle. And then I think it was like the balance is really just that he was either being fed or Amanda was pumping, but all of those things were happening all the time to a certain extent. And it was a big, big mission, but it was huge for Asher's development. You know, you could see that this was a massive victory for his spirit. He really needed it. He needed that early victory in relation to nourishment specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see him struggling with the catalyst, the spiritual catalyst of type 1 diabetes. And I see such a strong connection between the karma of his breastfeeding journey with you and the karma of type 1 diabetes that he's facing. They're so deeply connected.
And I think we'll see this theme, you know, like we talk about shadow, I think we'll see this theme play out for him repeatedly. Like there will be themes of nourishment. And I don't mean on a physical level all the time, but of course, at a young age, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think there will be those will be part of his cycle. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what he
does with it.
What he shows us, but it seems to be that's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting.
The nourishment cycle.
It's helpful to see, like, one of the most helpful things about kids is that you get this vantage point of, whoa, that impacted them early on, and now I'm just watching it unfold. You know, if you're able to watch them closely enough early on, you really see what they took and what they did with it and how it's now growing in them like a plant and developing. You have such direct access to it. It's very, very helpful. So, you know, I think a lot of this is a lot of our personal experiences have led us to develop this kids content that we're working on, which I guess we can chat about a little bit as well. Although I wanted to read this first. I recently uncovered the realization that my grandfather, who was like a dad to me growing up, may have broken away from Cuba if family to start a very loving family. Oh, interesting. Yes. So clearing family bloodline, soul family content. Okay, yeah, that's really interesting stuff. We were definitely talking about that lots, and I know that that's something I've been working with directly. Like, specifically, the way my parents dealt with failure as human beings is what I'm working on now. So the way they perceived themselves as failures or failures they performed in their lives, how they dealt with that as kids is what I'm now clearing from the family line. What you do with failure.
Exactly.
You know?
So it's like, when do you sort of dive in and take that all on? See, this is my thing. I take it on as if it is mine. Although it is in my family karma, it is not necessarily mine to just take into my being and sort of go into all the pieces of it.
Oh, okay.
And work through each piece emotionally and psychologically as if I was the person living it.
Yes.
Although it's in me, it's not my lived experience, and I don't have to recreate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Tempting to move into that as yours.
You know? And so I
Mm.
guess that's my deeper realizations around these things, where I used to just think, oh, well, yeah, I'm just doing the work for the family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it unnecessary work at times? You know? I absolutely love it because I love challenges and
Yeah.
fixing.
You want to do that work. Yeah, totally. Like, yes.
Sort of improving things and always see how things can be improved.
Right.
But
Interesting. No,
I'm
that's a
missing
really
that
beautiful
point.
distinction.
I'm missing that. That's a way to improve. Not hold on to shit.
Well, you know,
So it's very hard.
It's like that distinction I was talking about earlier. To me, a lot of the time, I'm finding this nuance where I can continue to work. I can continue to do my work as devotion to what's come up. That yes, you're here. Now watch me get the work done anyway. Join me.
Yes, it's true.
Be a part of it. I'm going to do the, because it's a lot of the failure voices that come up from whatever programming my parents had are like, stop what you're doing. What are you doing? Don't do that. You can't do that.
Yes,
you won't
allow
do that.
Yeah.
So you allow that voice to rage on, and you do the work, and you show it. Look, I'm going to do the work anyway. You say what you want. That's fine. You be there.
Yeah.
I see you. I will continue to see you as deeply as I can. That was really big for me today, as I learned to travel more deeply into just that feeling, and not into like the analytical internal dialogue of it. I went past the internal dialogue, past the scripts of it, into like the feeling of like, here's failure, here's what I do with it. You know?
Yeah. And that's part of the work too, because oftentimes if you could just surrender, then you may get some very crystal clear information.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that was,
that's what I've been thinking too. I was like, yes.
No, don't listen to the scripted voices of it, but the deeper feeling of what it's saying to you. And that's it's a different kind of information. Very, very uplifting.
Yeah.
You know, look, it's happening. No, those are excellent distinctions. And I think there seems to be a lot of people being put in this position, right? There has to be, because we're going through this big collective catalyst. So I'm just wondering what the success rate is on this right now. I'm curious what the stats on shadow work are. Something totally immeasurable statistically, but I'm going there anyways. Wonder.
There's always an opportunity. Regardless. Yeah.
So that sounds tricky. How do you know the difference between what is yours and what is hereditary? Aha. Yes, that's a good question.
I know. That's a really good question.
I think that has to do with like your degree of emptiness or sort of silence, like, how much quietude you're working with. And it's fine whatever level of quietude someone has in their inner work, but I think that's what's helped me find the distinction is how quiet, how still I can become during that work, so that I can really discern what's me and what's not me. And I found the most powerful tool for discernment is coming back to the realization, the notion that I am attributeless. That like my deepest essence has no attributes. So if I'm studying the attributes of anything, then I know those are not me. Those are not deeply who I am. And I found that duality really helpful. I use that a lot in my practice today, where it's like, okay, well, I am the other. I am the attributeless. I am the thing that has no definition. So why don't I work through these things that have definition, that have form, and manage them with love and respect, but not identify with them? That's been very helpful for me lately. Very uplifting.
Yeah, that's true. Not identifying with it.
This is very cute. You guys got extra cuteness in today's episode. Oh, hello, Catherine. Good to have you here. Welcome. Welcome. Our son just fell asleep on my lap. That's the latest update. It's nice. Nice little guest feature from Idris. So let's talk about some of this kids content that we're developing.
Sure.
So I'm developing currently It's a story that's going to start off as an audiobook. And it's called, right now, the working title is The Little Town of Ohm in the Age of the Exciter. But I'm really pumped about this because it's going to be an audiobook and meditation series that guides kids 4 and up in performing sort of mindfulness role-playing activities. And this audiobook is going to be then expanded into a card deck that families can use for interactive role-playing mindfulness games and really play with the dynamic between, mindfulness that is thrilling and exciting and active and even loud and intense versus mindfulness that is soft and quiet and gentle and slow. And that the present moment is full and dynamic, and that I think kids need that access into it. I think as adults, we crave the slowness, the quietude, all those things, and we actually overly associate those things with mindfulness.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we've been inspired by Asher in this way because there's so much, we obviously encourage him to slow down because he needs that, but there's so much that he teaches us about active mindfulness,
yes,
active meditation, and we want to honor that too. We don't want kids to think that their nature is wrong.
Yes.
Or not mindful.
So kids that have an intensity, that have a fast pace, that do default to that.
Yeah.
They can still experience deep presence.
They can still be mindful.
They can still be mindful. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a young warrior mind training series that I want to start of content. And I'm really excited about it. Yeah, we'll deliver this one. I'm really excited about it because it's going to speak to kids like Asher. The reason I'm designing it this way is because it gives a sort of intense, heroic mindfulness challenge, so that a kid that can step up and be still for a minute can save the day. A kid that can step up and breathe slow when everyone's breathing fast can save the day. But then we can flip it around too. And so the exploration of this story is going to be about the way this town was transformed by a new change in the stars and a new being that has arrived and altered the way they live. And the journey sort of back to their heart center and who they are as a people. And the way that, another guest, this is Richard. And the way that this young hero genuinely saves the day through mindfulness. So this is in development right now. Probably looking at getting this out maybe within the next month. So really, really excited about this audiobook and meditation series, which will eventually become a card deck that we're going to do with all sorts of goodies and exciting things, because we're going to be selling it with packages, and basically it's going to come with essential oils and crystals and different cool things. Let's see. Oh yeah, Catherine, so glad to have you here. Yeah, Catherine, who's here right now, was so helpful and spent some time with Asher at Camp Disclosure. Thank you again for that. Our children remember that whole trip so fondly. And if all goes well, we will be a part of that event again, barring any kooky COVID stuff that traps us in Canada. So we're really pumped. And if you have any feedback or things that you're really looking for in terms of solving mindfulness issues with kids, hit us up, because we're in development with this project right now, and we have lots of other things that we're going to be bringing out that are for families and kids in terms of health and wellness and mindfulness. Which brings me to the next announcement, which is the Ormus. Yes, Good Resonance Ormus. We are so happy to be working with Tyler and Amber with Piramana. I put the link in the description. They're the gracious beings who have helped develop this Good Resonance brand Ormus for us. We have been using Ormus for our family since last summer. And 100% our whole family's healthier. I'm sure of that. I'm sure there's been a major shift. And the way this product has been developed, I put some of that in the description. You can see it on my Instagram as well. But it's really like top quality. And I think being a part of, getting more wellness into families while we undergo this recovery is super, super important. This lockdown situation has hit families so, 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 so hard. And we've found great lightness in totally amping up our wellness practices, in amping up nutrients, nutrition, all of that. And the Ormus has been part of that journey and has definitely helped sustain our family's well-being through this really, really tricky time. So yeah, we're really excited about that. We're about a day away from getting the store up and running. So keep an eye out for the link for that. The first batch is in production, I believe. So we're really pumped to be a part of that. And the process of creating the Ormus that we are selling is also purified by the orgonite made by IAMPEVO. And I put the link for them as well. They're making some really cool stuff, especially exciting from my perspective, just looking around in their shop, is the orgonite they're making for kids and the little Lego people necklaces. I just think that's the best idea because it's so sturdy and kids destroy everything. So well done.
See if our kids can destroy it.
Yeah, let's test it.
They're pretty good at destroying things.
They're amazing at that's true.
Which is just a form of creation.
Destruction is a form of creation, which really thematically, let's think about that, people. Okay, in terms of this whole war that's going on and the destruction of these social structures. What form of creation is this? Very interesting. Yes, I know. I wish I could go to Cocoa Beach in March as well. I want to go.
A beach?
I'm trapped in Canada. I'm trapped.
It's like a blizzard.
For any Americans who don't know, if we leave Canada, first of all, we will be forced into COVID testing, which is already, medical tyranny. But then we have to, on the way back in, we have to get tested. And if they're janky, awful test that is so unreliable says that we're positive, we will be put in a government COVID facility.
No, even if you're not positive.
Well, if you're not positive, you're there for 3 days. And then if it comes back positive, you're there for 2 weeks. True. You're jailed no matter what. You have to take on the cost of the whole thing. You have to eat prison food. And the whole hotel, which is owned by the state, like the Chinese state, like these hotels that they're using are literally owned by a company that is part of the Chinese communist state. The whole hotel is covered in plastic sheets like a Dexter kill room. Totally. It's bizarre, insane, not based on any science. Wacko. So with all that, we were like, okay, right now the traveling is a little bit iffy. We're not going to push it because we've had a bunch of opportunities come up for potential travel, and we've had to sort of hang our heads and say no. But that's okay. Because all these challenges, again, like all these forms of destruction, all these things coming up, it's really important to find some flow with it and to find a light heart as much as you can in as many moments as you can. So we're going to find our way to, some summer events. That's the plan anyways.
Yeah. Because the other thing, too, is that historically the sort of restrictions have been more bark than bite. Like, I know there are people who are getting tickets and who are getting, all these awful things are happening and being made. People are being made into examples. Yeah. But
that's true. Well, when we went to Camp Disclosure last summer, that was true. Everyone was like, what are you doing? You can't do this. How are you traveling? Like, a lot of people were shocked.
Yes.
And we did it anyways because we looked into it. Now, right now, with it's a little bit more intense because it's a little bit more than an empty threat because there's some more reality to it. I still think there's ways around it generally because they don't really have the legal foundation behind what they're doing. Yeah. Actually, it's all very legal, but
yeah.
So travel's tricky right now. Tricky. But also, we just look at our astrology charts and say, hey, is there travel in our charts? Because if there is, then the deep state can't stop the movement of the stars. Fine.
No, they can't.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Is there anything else that we wanted to throw in there today? Oh, what? Okay, first of all, what is in this delicious drink?
Well, I made a blend. It's sort of a calming blend that I've been using in teas at night that has lavender and Roman chamomile and tulsi in it.
Lavender, Roman chamomile, and tulsi. And that's
Mhm.
with, this is with juice and vodka, correct? That is lovely. That's a lovely drink. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, certainly very calming. And what is in
calming.
the diffuser tonight?
Well, I put wintergreen in. I just got some wintergreen, and it's so good for surrender.
What is in
Because even
wintergreen?
what's in wintergreen?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like wintergreen is just a tree?
Yeah. So, but it's just really good. It's quite potent, and if people have used wintergreen before, it can relieve a lot of pain and muscle ache physically. And so I just think there's a level of surrender to be had. Like, I know when I have physical pain, it was like this afternoon when I had, Idris was napping and I had a bit of time and I was like, oh, I really got to work. I should do work things. And I just decided to surrender and take 15 minutes. And that's when I felt the parts of my body going, oh, it's sore. So wintergreen, I put that in the diffuser because, of what we had been talking about, just surrendering to what's coming up. And then I put the Siberian fir in there to, like I was saying, it makes me feel like I can stand strong. And it also helps me somewhat figure out, like, the stuff that keeps repeating that doesn't need to be repeated.
I like that combination of standing strong and surrender.
Yeah.
That's really, really powerful.
Yeah. It's really great. And then I put the Roman chamomile in the diffuser for just tenderness because I know I can be a very intense with myself and I need that at times, especially when I'm going into surrender. I need the tenderness there too. It helps the surrender. It helps it go into it. Otherwise, I might just be like, okay, I'm going to surrender now.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
That's not tender. You need tenderness there, especially if you're meeting, your child self and you're really trying to, if you really want to heal it, their tenderness has to be involved.
Okay, but so did you put in more of one than the other? Did you layer it, like, according to how much you put in of each one?
Yeah, I put probably more wintergreen and Siberian fir and then less of the Roman chamomile. And I also put thyme because thyme is, it's about purging, but it also is like those shadow things that keep coming back that maybe you've tucked them away a lot of times. We have that thing where it's like, that thing again, I'll deal with it later. And then maybe it just never gets dealt with. And so I feel like thyme, and even when I take it internally, it finds the things that are like in the crevices. So, I always like to get a little bit intense with it. And
no, that's your style. That's your style. Make sure you're doing one really hardcore health thing, pushing it to the max. You have a request here to develop a health drink recipe book.
Oh, yes. Actually, I've been working on some of
teas.
Those.
You've been working on teas, right?
Yeah, and some drinks, and yeah. So stay tuned. Yeah,
there's something in the works. It's brewing. It's brewing.
For sure.
Oh yeah, Catherine, are you feeling the shadow work as well? Who isn't? What human right now is not?
I'm totally fine.
I'm totally good. I'm working on nothing but superficial life things.
It's true though, but there are waves, right?
It ebbs and flows.
You're not always doing it, but
yeah,
it does. And I was, saying the other day, I was talking to someone, and it's like, although these times are very challenging, it's a quite opportunistic time to be doing shadow work.
This is the time.
And so it's like, well, I can't pass up that opportunity, even though it's ridiculous.
Gotta put in the work right now. You gotta put in the work right now. For reals. For reals.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think you're feeling that like a lot of this is like 6 and 7 year cycles that are coming to a close for you, right?
I don't
Longer
know
than that?
exactly. But quite a long one. Probably since like we met, maybe. Or maybe a little after that. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question. How does all this individual shadow work fit in with the larger cycles, like the Kali Yuga? Oh, that's a great question. Well, my initial instinct to respond to that question is to go sort of beyond the notion of linear time entirely, so that we're not dealing with like the idea of progressing to like this other point in human time, but more that like it's like nested. So I think when I imagine it, it's like humanity's here in this sort of inner cycle, like it's like a smaller nested cycle, and then we're changing, and that shadow work is sort of expanding, and it's expanding towards those like larger cycles where humanity's expression is, I guess, more pure, more expanded. Because my understanding of like the Kali Yuga and like moving into these larger cycles, that we are moving towards a more golden age of humanity, but its full expression is still very, very far away. But it's intimately connected to what we're doing now. And I understand that in terms of, the sort of like 2012 window and the changing of the ages. I know that when they were casting remote viewers into life on Earth past 2012, they kept hitting like these walls of light where they just couldn't see what was going to happen. And I really do believe that part of that is because you do hit times where it's like pure new potential, where it's like literally humanity, that choice isn't made till humanity's there. Whereas other cycles, like it's more like things play out according to like the karmic momentum that begins that cycle. But when it ends, there's like more pure potential for, okay, how are you going to launch this cycle? And then that's going to sort of like play out. The mechanics of that's going to play out. So you're making choices now that will create inevitable, I guess, formations or choices that are reached at the end of the cycle. Like they're connected, right? So when I see how it all sort of plays in together, I think we're doing very sacred work right now. The work being done at the beginning of this new cycle, this beginning of human story, I think it'll be looked back upon. I think it will be understood as crucial to where we end up. I think we're, as a species, like applying a level of free will that we really haven't before, because I don't think we've been aware enough to apply it.
Yeah.
We've been at the whims of other forces, at the whims of other sort of mechanics to a much greater degree. So the shadow work that's occurring now is the stepping into free will within this sort of new era. And I see it as a great honor. It's pretty incredible that we get to be here right now. It's really like the ultimate. It's crazy. I hope that big, long monologue answered something for you. That's a good old rant. Yeah, I know. So many years of inner work and the same stuff keeps coming back.
Know.
It's so real, man. It's so real. But
I think you have to get comfortable with that.
Well, I think one of the reasons we're not comfortable is because the social engineering tells us that progress is linear.
Yes,
it's not.
That's right.
It's not. It's
that's
not a career.
Why I was saying, like, for me, it feels like a cycle where I'm like, okay. You never lost who you were. You just go through cycles.
And now we really need culture that properly addresses our cyclical nature. We don't live in a culture that offers you that. What's on TV and in art and all this is really not. It's just not representative of our cyclical nature.
No,
it's almost nowhere in our culture.
Yeah,
and this is deeply wrong because it's deeply misleading. And so when you are trying to do something like shadow work, and then it comes back around and it's like kind of shocking, well, that's your social engineering. That's our social engineering, coming about. Trying to tell us this is supposed to be linear, like you're supposed to be going up the stairs.
And that's where I would say also our conditioning is still there then. And that is the shadow. Is our conditioning, is our belief that it has to be linear.
Yes.
That's what I've been feeling lately too, where I'm like, just the belief that it's linear is a shadow that has to be dealt with. And that I have to be tender with that part of myself that wants to like aggress it away.
I know. Blast it.
Damn it, this again? But also there are different things. Like for me, irony helps. Like seeing the irony of 2 steps forward, 1 step back has been a helpful thing that I can tap into, where I'm like, even though it's like painful and irritating and frustrating,
but it perfectly calls out your bullshit. It's so nice, in a lot of ways.
True.
It really perfectly says like,
that.
Yeah, you thought you were here, you are not. Humble yourself, continue to work. Thank you.
And it's true, and becoming humble is a gift.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, it's hard to humble me. I need to be kicked in the ass. It needs to happen. The universe needs to rough me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's the way.
It's okay.
Well, anything else, my love? Is that it? Is that it for today? Are we done? I guess we're done, unless people have any more questions. Good questions today. What a nice hangout. What a nice experience with little guest.
It was so great.
Idris.
Yeah.
He was.
Maybe you all gave him like sleep vibes.
Thank you for supporting. If you did.
Asleep.
We thought it was going to be kind of chaotic and wacko, and he just cuddled up and went to sleep. So, good work, community. Takes a village. We did it.
Exactly.
And wherever you are, stay warm. If you're in some of this crazy snow stuff, probably not our friend in Thailand, but,
yeah,
a lot of us. Lots of love. Stay warm. And we will hit you up next week, and keep an eye out for the link to our store, where we're going to start tossing up some good resonance products and spreading the love that way. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone who joined live, and thank you to all who come for the replay. We love you guys lots. We'll see you soon. Yeah.